morning, everyone. My name is Eric Converse, and I'm the CEO of Amra Medical. We are based in Linköping, Sweden. There's 3 points I want to leave you with today if you don't recall anything else in my presentation. The first one is that we're a next-generation phenotyping company. And what that means is we're doing analytics off of MRI scans. And the current assessment that you have on a person's body composition are not giving you enough information about their metabolic health. So when I say next generation, it means that you're able to understand more what's going on inside the body than something as superficial as a BMI measurement. The other piece is that we're a scalable platform using artificial intelligence and real-world data. And what I mean by that is we have a cloud offering where you're able to take the images right from the MRI machine, send them through a secured transfer through the cloud to our offices in Sweden. We're able to run our analytics, our algorithms through AI to segment the fat and the muscles in the body, and then give those measurements back to the site or to the pharma or to the physician. But more importantly, we're also able to take our real-world data, which we have as a result of the work we're doing with the UK Biobank. So we're not only giving you measurements, but we're also letting you know what they mean against the population or potentially a specific virtual control group that you may want to use to say, don't just tell me what this person looks like against the population. Tell me what this person looks like against people who look like him or have a similar BMI, age, or anything like that. We're able to do that because we have this great source of real-world data. And then lastly, it's that we have the team to deliver on it. I'll tell you that we've only started commercialization efforts in the last year. So we started delivering actually on our projects this year. This is my 5th time as a CEO, and one thing that I've learned that is abundantly clear, no matter what your technology, your services, if you don't have the right team, you don't have what it takes to be successful. I can tell you I'm very excited to say that we do have the right team, and I think success will be ours. My last role before I took this CEO position, I was responsible for an imaging core lab. And what that is a company that takes all the images for clinical trials, standardizes the measurements of them and the interpretation of them, and then sends them back for clinical trials. I was sent in there by Merck because they were an investor. I was able to increase the sales 4-fold in the 3 years I was responsible for it. And as a result of that, I helped Merck with some of their new portfolio companies while I was on my non-compete time. I sat through so many meetings around real-world data, and I saw more and more data coming in around genetics, blood types, lifestyles, you name it, but there was nothing on imaging. When I was approached by Amra for this leadership role, the thing that struck me is this could be something that is added to longitudinal patient data when you're looking at a patient's overall health. So you can see that would be the missing piece for a patient. Just a bit about Amra and who we are. We were founded in 2020. The first few years were spent around a lot of academic research, doing a lot of studies so we could prove our science. We had brought in investors in 2017, Novo and Pfizer, and they were able to help us take all of that experience and build our cloud-based offering. And then most recently, you've seen we have all of our regulatory clearances. We've had our CE mark for quite a few years, but we got our FDA clearance in December of 2018 last year. Industry funding, who's been with us since the beginning, has more or less been drip feeding the early years until we were able to have an offering which would attract new investors such as Pfizer and Novo. Right now, I'm looking to raise $10 million. $5 million of that will come from our current investors, and $5 million we're looking to open up to a new investor. This just gives you an idea of the team leadership. The 2 men on the your left would be Olaf and Magnus. They are the founders. They came out of the university there in Linköping. The nice thing about that, they're still connected there as professors. So that not only allows us a great site for us to do more of our studies, but it gives me a great feed of human resources for people coming out of the university who can continue to add to the Amra offering. In the US, myself, located in the US, my chief financial officer, Allison, who I brought in my experience working with her on Merck projects, and then Rosemary there in the middle at the bottom. It was under her leadership that we were able to increase sales fourfold in my last role. So I quickly tapped her to come and join the team here. And then operationally and regulatory is based in Sweden. This just gives you a visualization of what we're actually measuring. On your left there is the fat. So the blue is the subcutaneous fat, the red is visceral fat, and if you look closely inside, there's liver fat, and then on the right are the muscles. Just so you get an understanding of how it works. First one is getting started. You have an MRI at a site, and we are remotely downloading for them a protocol that they can load on the scanner. So it just tells them how to do the settings so they get it right. There's no software or anything that is sent to them. They do a test scan and they send it back to us so we can certify that they understand how it works. After that, you have a person who goes into the MRI. They're in there about 6 to 8 minutes. That's our patent-protected IP that you're able to get the person in and out of the scanner in that short amount of time and get the data we need. Then you have a secure transfer to our offices in Linköping. We run our algorithms, we run it through a quick quality control, and then we send the data back with a secure transfer. You should note here on some of these machines like GE, our protocol is factory installed since 2016. To get an idea of, that's a terrible slide, I apologize. To get an idea of what the output is, on the left there is a report which is for an individual. We have a health and wellness offering, which many people like to understand what they look like against the population. But to be honest, the real data that we're delivering is a spreadsheet, which more or less has all of our facts and figures for clinical trial work. But then as we've evolved into more of a product offering, we have this plot that you see in front of you, which gives a visualization of what the actual patient looks like. So you can get an idea, is this person normal, or are they close to normative data, which we have as a result of our UK Biobank. This blue star in the middle, that represents someone who's metabolically disease-free. And then as they go off on each axis, you see how they're straying from normative data. Basically, as I've told you, we have this cloud-based artificial intelligence, which allows us to take in all of this data. If we're adding any more biomarkers to it, we can enrich our whole database. On the right side here, you're seeing the areas where we target. You'll see most of that is metabolic, and there are some muscular offerings that we have around muscular dystrophies. Where we are right now, we have a great proposition around the life science researcher, anyone who's in pharma clinical trials or academic studies. But what we're really looking to do is, with our investment, is to move into the clinic. We'll first use these measurements for liver transplant patients to do evaluation to see if they are in a healthy enough condition to have the surgery or not. Why that's important is when you have a liver transplant, which costs about $600,000, you want to make sure that you're lining up your patients for the best chance of success. If you're paying $1,000 for our measurements, you get an idea if that person should be on the liver transplant list or not. That's something which is resonating incredibly well with liver transplant centers because most of them are getting a set fee. They want to have a successful outcome for their patient population, so they're attracting all of the people in their region to come to their center. Also, they just want to make sure that this set fee is actually profitable for them, and there's no better outcome than being able to report healthy patients who've had a liver transplant. Just so you understand our go-to-market, right now we are clinical trials. We're going through Imaging Core Labs. That was my history as the CEO of that company. And we now go, we market to pharma, but we deliver and bill through these Imaging Core Labs. I'm focused more on the technology that we're developing here because the multiple on a CRO is not the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for a multiple on the technology company. When we go into clinical use, we'll use a lot of our relationships with scanner manufacturers, GE, Siemens. We're already part of the Siemens Health and Ears team. So we're looking to leverage that when we roll out our global offering in clinical use. As I mentioned, there's a real pain point around liver transplant when you don't know the patient's metabolic health. You don't know if they're ready for surgery or if the cost of that surgery is going to be higher as a result of their state of sarcopenia, and you have them in the hospital longer. You have more mortality risk associated with that. So we're really addressing a pain point in there. Health and wellness is something where we have a general interest from people. It's probably 25% of our sales right now. I don't put a lot of effort into it. It's something that just comes to us because I'm focusing more on our clinical trials and using that as our leverage to get into clinical use. And then in the back of all that, you're seeing the data piece that we're building, which is collecting all of this data so we will be a subscription model for either researchers or clinicians. Our market size is about $25 billion based on our trials and our clinical use. We've got some great collaborators that we've worked with, a lot of publications coming out using our measurements specific to liver transplant. That's why we're going there first. That's the biggest pain point we're able to address right now in the clinic. It's always good when you win awards, but there's nothing better than being in National Geographic. This was a result of the efforts we have in the UK Biobank. Those were our images. They coined the phrase, "It's not the fat, it's where it's at." We have adopted that for many of our conferences when we're addressing with people our value on that. Just an idea of the product offering. When I was speaking to you about next generation phenotyping, you see here 6 men with the same BMI, but when you look at their visceral fat load, it's much different. That means they're going to have a different metabolic risk. So when you're taking our 5 key biomarkers and you're see with the imaging where it's coming from, and as I explained to you the BC plot, you get an understanding of what that person looks like visually. What you're able to do with that is explain how that person looks. The orange line tells you what an individual is. So he may look, for the most part, metabolically healthy, but you can see his visceral fat load is quite high, and they're going to have more of a coronary heart disease risk. The interesting thing about what we're doing is you can have someone who's metabolically healthy or someone who is so obese that you can kind of understand what you're going to do with them. It's these middle pieces here where you're seeing the different phenotypes which help you decide when you're developing a drug, is this the market I want to go after with my drug? Or when you have a patient that you understand who they are more deeply than just putting them in one box, which a BMI would do. This just gives you an idea of twin sisters where you have one who is the thinner one. She has a lower BMI, lower weight, smaller waist. However, she's not the healthier one. Her sister, who's heavier, has lower liver fat and stronger leg muscles. So she's carrying her weight in a better way than her thinner, less healthy sister. Where I think we stand up so much against our competition right now is we don't have a direct competitor. Our competitors are more other measurements like a DEXA or an ultrasound. What we're able to do is give more precision measurements. So you can take that when you have someone in the same category as far as BMI, and you can see, again, with the BCP plots, how they look differently in a phenotypic way. But it's not just that. It's now you're able to take that person and say, yes, he doesn't belong with these other people, but you can take our real-world database and find others that look like him. So you can say, this is the population that you should look at when you're addressing this patient. This just gives a history of all of our science that we have built over the early years of our company. So our science is very strong. The data, which I've mentioned, the UK Biobank, we also represent areas in Singapore, in the Middle East, and in the US, we have the African and Latin American population. So we're building a nice global population there. And this just gives the accuracy, which is, and repeatability, where you're able to use our measurements across different machines, different softwares on these machines, and still get the same consistent results. And this just gives you an idea of the areas where we're addressing. Here's our platform. We're developing our biomarkers that I've mentioned. Here's the data. And as you're pulling it up, you're pulling together for a precision medicine offering where you can address both metabolic, musculoskeletal, and also muscle wasting pieces. With that, I'll take anyone's questions.